World.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a special news bulletin from Tested, 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 World. Tested, World. Tested, World.
What is up, Twisted World fam? We are back and with my boys, as always, Cody and Andy.
Yo.
What's up?
Hey guys, so right now trying to get a puppy for my wife and my girls. We're looking
Are you
at
really?
Yeah, really, yeah. So I've actually been searching for some time, and we're looking at these little Frenchies, right? They're these little squish face, cute dogs, and you go online and it's crazy. So we find all these places and they're like, oh yeah, we're certified this and certified that. Just send us your $4,000 and we'll make sure you get your dog. And I'm like, what? And then so I ask questions and then I get an email back. Please tell us all this, and it's this long like application. And I'm like, I don't have a problem with 90% of this, but when you start asking me like, what are my work hours and what do I do for a living?
Can we see your most recent tax return?
Yeah. I'm like, and how do I know I'm going to actually get my dog? Right. And so I start hearing these horror stories about people actually going through these and losing their money.
Oh, no. You have to pay up front?
Yeah. Well, they want the money as a deposit because these dogs are so sought after. And I get it. There's some value to them, especially the ones that are AKC and papered, and because you can breed them and make money and so on and so forth. And it was like, okay, but what's my guarantee I'm going to get my animal? And then you hear these people are like, I see all these stories on these different sites. So I've been trying to follow these other sites, and these people are like, yeah, I sent this company my money and the dog was supposed to be here 2 months ago and now I can't get a hold of anybody. And I'm like, wow, that's a racket.
I would never do anything like that if I couldn't see the dog, like in person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you're choosing to buy from an out of state, travel, go see the dog, right? Like me personally, my sister bought her corgi. I want to say the person was out of like Oregon, but they drove down to the Sacramento area and my sister met them to see the dog. Now, I don't know if she paid ahead of time. They may have paid a deposit, but like if it's a $4,000 dog and you pay like a $300 or $400 deposit, so be it. If you lose your money, you should do your due diligence beforehand, but I would want to see the dog. I like seeing him in person before I give any kind of cash.
I absolutely agree. Agree. And the hard part is like Amy wants a certain color and so on and so forth. But anyways, we found a friend of a friend, through social media, and social media does have some good aspects, and introduced us to this person who's only like an hour away, and professional breeder, and she does this stuff, and she's telling me, she's like, yeah, we take them to UC Davis and get them genetically tested and make sure that there's no defects in their genetic strain. And she said to the point where if we have a contract, and in our clause in our contract states, if like the dog ends up with like a heart murmur where now it's only going to live a few years, she will completely refund and or give you a new puppy.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right. So
I got someone that's confident in what they've got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She went through this whole thing, and I'm like, nobody's ever laid this stuff out before. So they got a litter coming in a few weeks, and potentially some light cream colors, and so we'll be.
Do you prefer the white cream colors?
So like Amy's been looking at them. She kind of liked the blue, I guess it's called. Oh, I didn't even. Oh yes, I enjoy never mind. Anyway, yeah. So my wife's picky and she's funny about things. My wife is I love my wife. She's amazing. People meet her and she's like, oh, she's so sweet and stuff. And then she's got this, and she's gonna kill me.
If she's listening to all this, so
yeah. She's an avid listener, and she's gonna kill me for this. And she's got this alter ego, and it's like, many years ago, she used to listen to like rap and things like that, and so she gets this like side come out of her, and then I tell people about it, and they're like, yeah, right. But then people see it, and they're like, oh, and she's just total like multiple personalities. She doesn't have multiple personalities. It's just this kind of outgoing, spunky, like dance in the kitchen while cooking and cleaning, and and I don't mean she's doing like some country two-step stuff, like she's dancing, all right. And I remember the first time I seen it, and she was like, yeah, and I'm like, what? Who is that? And I'm like, wait, you waited till after we got married to bring this person out?
No, you mentioned it at the wedding.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. You knew.
Oh,
you knew
what together a long time. That by this point, yeah. She didn't show, and for all of our listeners, her alter ego's name is Shikami. Her real name is Amy, but that's what we've named her. Great fun side. So, and she used to listen to the type of rappers that we're going to talk about, right? So we're talking about two of the biggest rap names in rap history. Biggie Smalls, a.k.a. Christopher, or his real name, his a.k.a. is Biggie, Christopher Wallace, and Tupac Shakur. So Tupac Amaru Shakur. So that's the guys. And really, we're just going to talk about today about the theories and mysteries and conspiracies behind Tupac's death. And that's really the big one, because there's some crazy ones out there.
Assuming he died.
Assuming he died, which is, great conspiracy.
He's in Malaysia.
Yeah. or Cuba or whatever it is. He's out there living it up. And so I know that when these guys were out rapping and doing their thing, Cody was coming into the world, but everybody knows who Tupac is, right? I mean, I think there's probably 8 and 10-year-olds that know who Tupac is. Even today, he's still selling records. So, big money. And rap was a different thing. R&B was a different thing back then, as we just listened to some genuine.
Stop. Terrible.
We introduced a genuine song. I don't want to say the song because it is a very bad song, but I just remember being in high school. We let Cody listen to it, but I remember being in high school and everybody's like, yeah, it's a great song. And now today at a little over 40 years old, listen to the words and I'm like, that is not a good song at all. Not even
the point of that. The point of that whole conversation is realizing that at the time, I think I was like 11 or 12 when that song came out. And the fact that the words of that song, and then you think on them today, and I'm like, oh dear God.
Yeah.
Like, no, stop. No.
Yeah.
It should not be.
Well, I want to get Cody's point of view on something. I heard rumor mill is that our fellow host over here dabbled in some rap music.
No.
Like himself.
No.
And I think we should get a hold of this somehow. Is that,
No.
do you think you can look into this and
What?
we can get it? Yeah.
Are you referring to Andy?
He's not.
Andy.
It's not me. I'm square.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Did you hear about this?
I knew about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not.
So we need to get a sample so we can get it out to our
Sample
listeners.
of some rap.
Yes.
If this existed,
This is not a conspiracy. This is
You can go on
Everyone
the
in-
Wayback Machine on MySpace and just go to his page.
nope.
He's got it on
Oh.
his like.
Nope.
Were you one of
You
those?
won't find it. You won't find it.
His like when you go to the page, it triggers and
Yeah.
starts playing.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
people are like, "This is cool. Who is this?" And he's like, "That's me."
That's
No.
me. That's my mixtape.
Yeah.
That's my mixtape.
What was your stage name?
I don't know.
Oh.
I didn't have a stage name.
Come
I didn't,
on.
'cause I didn't rap.
Irish Spring.
So fresh.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
You should market
This is
that.
not something you put out
That's
into the
fire
world.
right there. That's lit. Let's go.
This is not something you put out into the world.
What? Yeah. I mean, well, now it's out there. So, hey, I mean, we're just curious. If we get enough listeners chime in, like, yeah, we
No.
want to hear this. Can we get it?
No.
Can we get this somewhere?
It doesn't exist. Listen.
It's got to exist somewhere. You can't erase everything. It's got to
See,
be
you
there.
think that. Think that. But it didn't happen.
Oh, hey, listeners,
It's
you guys
with,
want
it's
to hear
with
it?
Tupac.
Come on, we need some votes on this so we can ramp this up. But yeah, so Tupac died in 1996, September, and he was shot. He was coming out of a Vegas casino.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing some gambling, or I don't know if it was a show or what he was, but he was in the car with at the time the manager or head of Death Row Records, Mr. Suge Knight, who is always seemed to be getting in trouble, and gets in the car, drives down the road. Somebody pulls up beside. He's in the passenger seat, shoots the car up. Boom. And Tupac dies, and everybody goes nuts. I remember when this happened because I remember coming to school the next day, and it was like everybody's in these groups crying. And I'm thinking like, yeah. So a rapper gets shot, a well-known rapper gets shot, but none of you guys knew this guy. Why you guys all like the whole school needed an emotional break because Tupac just got shot.
All eyes were on him.
Cody's like, what? That was
one of his songs.
All Eyes on Me. It was one of his songs. I think the record was named that too. But
It's like one of the last albums I think he did.
yeah, the crazy thing is I just don't. I never really grasped that. Again, did I listen back then? I was listening to that stuff, but it wasn't like oh, he's dead. Let me cry a tear. I listened to Eazy-E. I didn't like freak out when he died either. But people were broken up about it. So Tupac really
I think
had
that
an
would
effect.
happen with anything nowadays. I mean, you think about any popular group or individual that's music's important. Music matters.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's weird, but we were listening today to the sermon that he was given today about how he knew it was real when his brother had deleted all or got rid of all of his secular music.
Yeah.
Music plays a big role in people's lives. I had
Huge.
I had tens of gigs of music.
Tens of gigs.
In the early 2000s, and I got rid of a lot of those.
And it was all labeled Irish Springs. Drop it
Irish
for us,
Spring
bro.
Volume 1.
Mm.
Drop it like it's hot.
Yeah. This is bad.
Crazy thing. So, and I did not know this. I guess Tupac has actually had 11 platinum albums.
Wow.
But only 4 when he was alive.
Yeah.
So like
Makes sense.
7 platinum albums since passing.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that kind of the MO with quite a few people? I mean, Biggie kind of the same, not quite as many, I'm sure.
I know when Patrick Swayze died, I was pretty brokenhearted.
Patrick Swayze's dead?
Oh man, man. Yeah,
We could never have a movie podcast. Like we would never be. It would be like a one and done.
We'd have to explain every actor, every movie.
That actually might be a good like separate podcast.
Yeah.
Is we'll call it like who does Cody know?
Yeah.
And then just pull random pictures out and talk about all the movies that those people have been in, and see how he reacts.
That'd be cool.
I like this.
Yeah,
this
is that'd be fun.
Yeah. I mean, fun. I don't know. It would be short, but it'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could give him a list of movies to watch, and then then he can be like, "Oh yeah, I watched that one you guys made me watch." And
he wouldn't watch it, would he?
No, probably not. Or he would, and then he would just tell us we're like.
I can give you guys my opinion on it after. You guys give me homework, and I can go back and give you like a 10-minute synopsis.
The way to do that would be to do it where you're like unalterated. We tell you nothing about our opinions, and then just see how you feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's some great movies from the 80s. Goonies.
They don't even have to be good. Yeah.
Twisted World movie reviews.
Yeah.
Twisted World movie reviews. So Biggie and Pac, East Coast, West Coast, there was like this rival thing, I guess, going on, and it was real big, 90s, and it was like, if you're an East Coast rapper and or a West Coast rapper, and it was like gangs, like they become this gang, right? And even though that they're kind of from, the kind of music they were writing and things like that was, I guess, easiest way to put it, gang related, sort of. I mean, just their mentalities and how they did things and carried guns and wore bulletproof vests and all of that. So kind of makes sense, right? That, there's these rappers but the crazy part is, and I kind of knew this, but I didn't really until I started digging in it. These guys were friends. These guys were friends.
Who?
Biggie and Pac.
Okay.
So, at one point, like I guess Biggie was trying to come up. Pac had already released a platinum album, and so Biggie like talks to this drug dealer. Funny thing has it, talks to this drug dealer and he's like, "Hey, I want you to introduce me to Tupac," right? And so he gets him invited to this gathering that Tupac's having at his house. And there was this intern for Biggie, I guess, and he was like, and the intern goes on quote by saying that Pac was in the kitchen, like cooking up some steaks and some French fries and just, regular average food. Like this guy's already worth a bunch of money, and he's in the kitchen cooking for all these people, right? And they're just getting ready to have a shindig, and Biggie comes in, and they became friends, right? And to the point where, like at one point, I guess, like when they would visit, like if Biggie visited LA or vice versa, they would crash at each other's houses. Like they were really good friends. Like not this so quote unquote beef as it became. And I'm sure it was facilitated. But I think the one thing that I saw more than anything was the kickoff, the main kickoff. And these two were supposed to go to, I guess, Madison Square Garden has this thing called Quad Records, which is like a recording studio. And they were all supposed to meet there. Puffy, Biggie, Pac, and his crew. And Puffy and Biggie were already there, and this is the first time that Pac gets shot. So he didn't die, but he gets shot 4 times in the lobby of that recording studio. The report said that he still made it upstairs, shot up, and Pac goes on record to say the look on their faces were like this guilty look, like, why are you still alive? And so that began this rivalry. He in his deep down, he believed Puffy and Biggie set this up. Now, no evidence, know anything. It's probably just a young. Keep in mind, these guys are like young 20s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 21, 22 years old, making way more money than they should be in this rap game that is driven by gang violence and everything else. And so Pac gets shot, and I've never been shot. I don't know what it even feels like, but he was upset.
I'd be upset. The dude, you tell me the guy got shot 4 times, made it upstairs, and has the ability to look at these guys and go, they look guilty.
That's what I'm saying.
Like bleeding out. He got shot 4 times,
hard,
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you're seeing things through the right lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening.
So,
and we're talking about Pac and Puffy are upstairs, correct? I mean, that's like
Biggie and Puffy are upstairs.
This is like Diddy like 4 names ago, right?
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's this guy named Puff Daddy, aka
Sean
Puffy, aka Sean Combs. He was the head of Bad Boy Records, who produced Biggie, right? He was bringing Biggie up. In fact, at one point, I guess Biggie asked Pac, like, "Hey, will you manage me?" This is before that incident, and Pac's like, "Nah, man, like we're friends. I don't want to put friendship and business together, but stick with Puffy. He'll take you places." And
do you know who Diddy is?
Who? No.
Diddy.
No.
Yeah, he dropped the P, so now it's just Diddy. Okay.
Puff Daddy.
P. Diddy?
P. Diddy.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped
I
the
know.
P. Now he's just Diddy.
He's just Diddy?
That's what I said 4 names ago. So Diddy used to be P. Diddy, then he was Sean Combs, then he was Puffy.
Oh, okay.
So Puffy and Sean Combs and P. Diddy are all the same person.
All the same person. Okay.
All the same person.
Yeah.
He's just, he gets bored of a name and changes it.
Yeah.
Like how Snoop Dogg changed his name to Snoop Lion for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, he's making fun of it. That's kind of what that is, right? Yeah. Snoop Lion.
Hey, speaking of Snoop, real quick before just a little rabbit trail here, you know that Snoop has since bought Death Row Records?
That doesn't surprise me. He was good friends with Tupac.
Yeah.
I remember him going on because there's like a conspiracy like happening in the last like couple of years, I guess, where Suge Knight Jr. is saying that Tupac's still alive, right? And he lives in Malaysia or Cuba or whatever.
Yeah.
And Snoop Dogg is on like the Steve Harvey show, and he says it makes for good TV. That's why they're saying it, and that he's where he's where he belongs, kind of thing. So it's like
Dre, Snoop, and Tupac were real close. So
West
Coast, right? Which is funny. Do you know that Pac actually started with an East Coast group?
You were saying this.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Digital Underground, Shock G, who actually just passed away recently of last year of a drug overdose, also known as Humpty. So a lot of people remember the Humpty dance and all that stuff. He was the head of Digital Underground, and Tupac was a roadie backup singer for Digital Underground. So they were East Coast. And so that's really...
But he made his name West Coast.
He did. And in fact, his mom moved him out to Monterey to get out of New York because Pac was born in New York.
Yeah.
So he was born in like the Harlem area. Biggie was in like Brooklyn. So, they're kind of neighbors, right? So, and I think that there's some aspects to that. But so this shooting, I guess, occurred. Pac later goes to prison and somehow gets some other intel while he's in prison that Biggie knew about the shooting, which again, is that credible sources? Who knows? Bunch of guys sitting in lockup, like, hey, Biggie knew about it, and then he's already got it in his head. And then that's when he hooks up with Suge Knight, the original owner and creator of Death Row Records. And Suge's like, yeah, come be a part of our group. And so they go on, and then Biggie makes this song like Who Shot Ya? And I never actually heard that particular song. And so I was looking up the lyrics and stuff. It's like just a generalized song, like gangster song, right? But Pac took it to heart, like, yeah, that's about me. So then Pac fires back with Hit 'Em Up. And in the song Hit 'Em Up, he talks about like being bad boy killers, right? Because remember, it's Bad Boy Records. He talks about he says some other pieces, and it's like he 100% directed that song at Biggie, Puffy, and their crew, right? And in one of the pieces, I guess he says in it, because so you know who Faith Evans is? She was an R&B singer.
Yep.
She was Biggie's wife.
Oh.
And Pac in this song basically says that he slept with Faith Evans.
Okay.
Right? Just total mudslinging, just getting it fired up. So that was the pinnacle of the East Coast, West Coast rap. It was these two once friends. Some things happened, and now
he got shot 4 times.
He did get shot,
Some
but it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it was Puffy and Biggie.
Well, those would be the things you're referring to.
But doesn't
those would be the things.
Just the 4 little things.
Let's-
They're very small. Have you seen them?
Drama sells. Drama sells,
It does.
right? People
Yeah.
watch American Idol because of Simon Cowell getting heated and yelling at someone, right? Like those, like my daughter's watching America's Got Talent, right? She sits and watches with it. She goes, when Simon says something, she goes, I love Simon. Because she loves that he's just brutally honest, and like you look for that drama. It's something that you're attracted to.
Yeah,
I think that's the human side of
I always
us.
wonder if he's really that bad in person, or is it,
He may be,
just like,
but I think at the end of the day, keep in mind he was an executive producer on both those shows.
Yeah.
So he was selling a brand just like we're talking. I think that
because everybody was always nice, like, oh, they were.
He
good.
got shot.
Simon's like,
He got shot. I'm sorry, not Simon Cowell. I'm talking
I
about
was like,
Tupac.
you did?
I was going to finish my thought. Tupac got shot, but I wonder if it was all spun in a way to make this beef become a reality because these two guys were up on the rise on 2 different sides of the United States.
Yeah.
And the conflict between one another brought a lot of it to the media and a lot of attention to it.
well, and Suge was still trying to get Death Row Records off the ground at one point, and Bad Boy was flying, and that was like he's seen Sean, P. Diddy, Puffy Combs, whatever you want to call him, Puffy Combs.
Yeah.
He's seen him as competition. So the beef, everything I read was like really between those two, and it just were like, hey, we're gonna use these two Ponzi's, right? And we're gonna use Biggie and Pac. They're friends. We deteriorated because I mean records were selling because people were digging, like people on the West Coast were digging the battle, East Coast. Because again, I mean, like I said, back in junior high, high school, I remember people are like, oh, East Coast versus West Coast. We West Coast. And it was just like, no, you're a 14-year-old in a high school. You're not, right? But that's what they fired up and sold a lot of records, right? And really was the kickoff of the quote unquote diss albums. There's been a lot of diss albums since. I mean, Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly, those two guys, you know, Machine Gun Kelly always taking hits at Eminem.
Always taking hits.
And then Eminem's like, bro, do you know who I am? Like, it just unleashes. Like,
Oh, yeah.
So-
He was like, did you see Machine Gun Kelly said about you on Twitter? He's like, who?
yeah.
He's like, I got a lot of people hitting me up on Twitter. I don't know.
Well, do you know that Eminem is the highest album selling rapper of all time?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And Tupac's right behind him. Right. So here's this dude, Machine Gun Kelly, coming up just trying to diss. Guy's like, oh, you have no idea.
But
Hey, yeah, you're nobody. Kick rocks. So they kicked off the diss albums. East Coast, West Coast thing got fired up. And Pac gets shot in front of a casino in the car with Suge. And then, like, I think, I don't know, 6 months later, Biggie gets gunned down. So with Puff Daddy in the car.
which I was young at the time. I had the feeling, I remember that a lot of the stuff attention was drawn on Biggie. I was, he had to be responsible. Those two had to be responsible. I know that it shifted to Suge Knight later on,
Yeah.
but I remember initially
depth,
they
yeah.
thought it was the beef that was the cause of the death,
Right.
rather than it being the other way around. But
It's
yeah.
again back to that drama effect, right?
Yeah.
Like it,
Well, okay, Machine Gun Kelly, right, looks at Eminem as the most successful rapper of all times.
Yeah.
That's the guy you want to have beef with if you want. This is how it works in this industry.
oh yeah.
Right? You see popularity there.
But that's why Eminem's like,
right.
I'm not going to give you notoriety by recognizing who you are.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because I see what you're doing. Like, you're not going to come at me. Like, and he just doesn't. Yeah, speaking of these old rappers and stuff, you know, the Super Bowl wasn't too long ago. And Eminem, Dre, 50 Cent too, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't
50 Cent.
doing his hanging upside down thing. And I just, it was funny watching social media and all the memes that started coming out. Like, if you're 50 plus and you have your AARP card, you loved the Super Bowl show. Sad but true. And all the young people are like, man, who's these old cats up here doing this stuff? Yeah. So, and it funny stuff. I still think that Pac should have showed up though.
He showed up to Coachella.
Yeah.
They could have done it. I was expecting it. Remember, I was sitting there with you going, come on, bring him out. Right?
Cody, you know what happened at Coachella?
This was years ago. It's been years now.
Yeah.
I do not know what happened at this specific Coachella.
And
with relation to Tupac.
It was Tupac. So it was the crazy. I mean, when this happened, I just remember everybody going, I knew it. He's alive.
Yes.
They basically create this large 3D digital Tupac. And,
and he's doing the song and walking across the stage.
Okay.
But
it's like a projection.
Technical feat that had not been done or seen before, and it was legit.
Using some new technology. It was cool.
They do it in Japan a lot of the time, but yeah.
Right. So at this point, like it supposedly had never been done, and so nobody was expecting this. So they start playing one of the Tupac beats, right? And people are like, yeah. And then all of a sudden, Tupac digitally shows up on the stage.
It looked like it was 2012 that they did it.
And everybody, I can't tell you how many people instantly, yes, Pac's alive. We knew it. We knew. I mean, look at him.
It looks pretty legit. If you're like watching it and I don't know what it looked like there, but on screen, this is an older, I don't know what the quality is, but yeah. And I don't have the music on, so you can't actually hear it, but he is rapping the song that they're playing. And this is a live recording that they did from multiple sections, or like they're different angles to build like a 3D model of him of a concert he did. And I was like, first off, the technological feat that they accomplished in 2012 was legit. But this immediately, the news went everywhere that Tupac was alive.
Oh yeah,
and it was at Coachella.
I mean, the media fed it. It was like big.
I remember the articles coming out. I remember the company that did the production coming out. Like it's just holograms, people. We just did it with technology, and no, it was like no matter the curtain had been pulled back
because people had their speculation.
It shows you clips of that thing.
Yeah.
Right, but people don't care. Oh yeah, no, exactly. But so people are adamant, 100% adamant that Pac was alive. That maybe he was doing this remotely, and it was cameras filming him. Whatever the case may be. I mean, adamant. You could not, and these are all mostly people that had an inkling. They're like, oh, I don't think Pac's dead. Because that still to this day lives on. You can find so much stuff where people they write up entire articles about evidence that Pac is alive. And, we'll get into that in a second because it's just funny, but sad too, kind of. But that happened, and it was like no convincing anybody else at this point. They're so set on the fact that Tupac is alive. In fact, there's probably a lot of people listening right now that are like, "Oh no, he's alive. Wait, we have proof." Like, but nobody has proof that he's alive, right?
So is Elvis,
right? Yes.
Didn't Elvis have a heart attack on the can or something?
I don't.
He
remember.
went from like a sex symbol to,
he was a crackhead, right?
Yeah, he had drug problems, and he was smashing like 24 donuts and all this stuff. Like he was.
He was an absolute legend when it came to food. Yeah, absolute legend.
His body was a legend, that was for sure. It just he deteriorated. Yes,
he was all shook up.
He was all. Here we go. I know. Cody's like, what? It's Elvis song. Elvis song.
I know it's an Elvis song. It was a lame joke.
Oh God!
Thank you for.
I'm not cringing at
he's cringing at me. He's not cringing at the joke.
Can you help me keep this guy's jokes under control?
No, you keep giving him credit.
So
great.
Yeah, exactly. The conspiracies really fall behind Tupac because, again, as Andy put, when the shooting first happened, you had the people that believed he wasn't dead, which still to this day is alive. But then, of course, it's always the Biggie's crew, Puff crew. There is one conspiracy that Biggie hired the Crips, right? So I thought Tupac was like Crippish. Wasn't Snoop Dogg was like Crip, right? He did the Crip walk.
Yeah, Crip was West Coast.
Yeah, so I don't know enough about gang. But
listen.
Yeah,
no, they both.
Apparently, I'm a rapper.
Irish Springs does.
Apparently, I'm a rapper, and
Crips and Bloods are both California. They're not.
So Biggie apparently, this conspiracy theory that Biggie apparently paid $1 million to the Crips to kill Tupac. And in fact, there was a Times article in 2008 that was basically saying, "Oh, there's evidence of this and that," and then later had to be pulled down. I couldn't find the article, but I found the blurbs talking about the article that went out, and then they were forced to pull it back down because the FBI that supposedly had reports and allegation of this allegation later found that it was inconclusive and falsified. So whatever the agenda is behind that, not real, completely dismissed. The big one that is currently standing is that Tupac was actually killed by Suge Knight. So Suge Knight, the owner and creator of Death Row Records, supposedly had played a big part in killing Tupac. Now, why people are like, well, why would he do that? Right. So one, there was his attorney's name was David something, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But David Kenner. Yes, thank you. David Kenner supposedly was fired by Tupac like a week or two before Tupac was shot. He was fired by Tupac, and Tupac said, I'm going to go start my own label. Right. And not to mention, Tupac by this point was also climbing up. There's movies. What was that movie he did with Janet Jackson?
I can't.
Anyways, Tupac was becoming like a movie star. Right. He was starting to appear in movies. And so he had that. He claims he was going to start his own label. Well, if he started his own label, Suge would lose royalties and all rights to his music. Right. Because he would bring everything with him because it's his music.
Yeah, he threatened to take the masters and go do his own thing.
Right. And this again was just weeks before he was shot. So coincidence? Who knows? Suge Knight has actually had evidence in the past too when people have tried to leave. So like Eazy-E, if you guys don't know who Eazy-E is, he was like one of the heads of NWA, and Death Row Records was producing them in the end. And Eazy-E's like, no, I'm gonna break off of this. I don't like what's going on. And then there's the whole Eazy-E conspiracy, which is a whole nother thing in itself. But just to touch on it, the reports are that Suge and some thugs with some baseball bats and stuff, they confront Eazy and tell him sign over Dre, because Dre was underneath Eazy under NWA, and Eazy's like, I'm taking all my stuff with me, which would have included Dr. Dre. And he's like, no. So he confronts Eazy-E, supposedly, beats him up, the whole works. And then later, Eazy-E dies of AIDS. Now, here's where the conspiracy on Eazy-E comes in, which is kind of crazy. And the one aspect I didn't know about this, which I'll push here, is now there's some belief that Suge Knight had like a syringe of AIDS and injected it into him. Yes. Yeah, that's out there. That's actually, they kind of show it in I think the NWA movie, because I saw a little blurb where it talks about it. So they even put it in this movie that Suge injected AIDS. Now, crazy thing about that is Suge Knight was on the Jimmy Kimmel show, or Jimmy Fallon, one of the Jimmy talk shows.
They're basically the same, right? Because is this recent?
I don't know the date of when he was on, but he said he's talking. And by the way, whichever Jimmy it was wearing a bulletproof vest, like kind of
that's so
mocking the scenario. But so he tells Jimmy, he was like, hey, if you shoot somebody, you're going to go to prison for life. So with technology and everything else, there's like ways where, you could put things like AIDS into a syringe. And now this is after Eazy, and I'm sure he's probably
playing into
it because it's the thing that's out there. But he's like, hey, so, you don't want to go to prison. You just get some AIDS into a syringe and inject it into him.
Right. So just vaccinate him.
Yeah. So Eazy's son's like, see, I told you. Like, exactly.
He's probably saying that because how ridiculous it sounds. How are you going to inject him without him knowing? Like, there's just so many.
But if you
where do you get AIDS from?
The crazy part is
if you mock if someone has AIDS in their blood and you put that into someone else's, it's contagious, right?
It is.
So you don't. It's not this masterful scientific plan. If you have a friend that has AIDS, you're like, hey, bro, let me get some blood.
Yeah,
and you're done.
Let me get some blood.
And like,
yes, how that conversation happens.
I'm just saying.
Well, if you're Suge Knight,
it's
more like, hey,
I would
punk, give me some blood.
Hey, I heard you have AIDS. I'm looking to commit a crime. May I have your blood?
No, see, it don't go like that.
It don't go like
Suge Knight? Suge Knight's like 6'3", like 300
I'm
pounds.
sorry.
He's a beast.
He looks every bit of mob boss.
Dude, you right? He reminds me of Kingpin from Marvel.
He's huge.
Yeah.
He'd scare me.
Yeah, no. He is no punk. For sure. And he's currently, I think I don't know if it's still on trial. You'd have to look it up. But not too long ago, he was back on trial for murder because during the premiere of the NWA, there was another record label producer that he basically runs over with his car, and it was all caught on video.
Yeah, he's incarcerated right now. I just looked that up a little bit ago.
So he must have gotten convicted. But I mean, he's not a nice guy. So if he wants your blood, you're either going to take it or he's going to take it.
Guys like that have loyalties, right? So he probably has. I mean, I'm not saying that this is what happened. I'm just saying to get your hands on some tainted blood that has AIDS in it probably wouldn't be that difficult to do if you were in that circle.
Well, and the crazy thing is, so Eazy-E was known as I won't use the words that the article said.
How is it any different than going and buying like a shotgun that's sawed off?
You can just make.
Yeah,
you just buy a shotgun.
You don't think that
you can't just go like? I mean, I'm just saying like how many people actually had AIDS
back then?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of people.
Oh, I mean, like
it was rampant in the early 90s.
Especially in LA County in that time.
Okay, so having AIDS was just pretty common, right? So, but then then you have another issue where it's like, okay, how do I get the blood in a syringe from somebody willingly and have them not talk about it later on?
True.
You probably got.
He's gonna die.
You probably got to kill them later or something like that.
Well, if you're a mob boss gangster like Suge Knight,
and then now the tricky part is like, okay, now I got to get the blood into the other guy, and without him knowing that it was me.
But that when he beat him up, knocked him out in the studio, when he confronted him, that's when they supposedly think it happened.
So he knocked him out, then injected him with AIDS.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, and that's what the movie apparently
and
depicts
all those
too,
things have to line up.
Yeah,
in order for that to work.
Well, here's the crazy coincidences. So Eazy-E was known, and again, I'm not gonna use these words as a pee getter, right? You can fill in the blanks. Like he liked the women, like a lot of them, and he had a lot of kids in that span of after he was diagnosed. Right, there was a lot of kids that popped out, and even a little bit right after he died, and not a single child and not a single one of those women have AIDS or HIV. So I don't know. Connect the dots. That's what his son's doing. Son's out there connecting the dots. But it does sound far-fetched.
It does.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
That's why it's a
I'm just saying, there's ways to do it.
I'm not saying there isn't ways. I'm just saying
person in a blood lab.
Very out there.
I just believe if there's a 1% probability or possibility, then yeah, it could happen, right?
It's not like he's created the cure for cancer, and that's just unfathomable thing. I think getting blood that has AIDS in it would probably not be that big a deal if you were a multimillionaire.
Is he a multimillionaire at this point?
Yes. By the way, I will tell you one of the beefs that Tupac Suge Knight, yes.
Well, yeah, but he's been over the last 4 or 5 years. A lot of people have been hitting him up in the courts. And
I will say this:
Monterey courts, I saw it was civil suits, and he had to shell out. He had to give out.
He's been in prison since 2015 or 2016, so he's stuck. When Tupac was threatening to leave, it wasn't just because of some of the stuff that was going on. He also owed, I think, his artists and investors $104 million.
Yeah.
So there was this fear and risk that it was going to collapse. And so, Tupac's wanting to run, dip and run. And he's starting to feel the pressure of, okay, I've got all this money that I owe. This is my piggy bank. And now he's leaving me with all of his masters. So there's more money to be made in Tupac being dead than there is alive at that point.
And I think that's why probably that's the most prominent conspiracy that Suge set all this up. And, at the end of the day, Suge's probably thinking he's going to bounce me. So I'm going to off him. And we're going to release all these other albums of all these songs that were already mastered by Tupac. And we're just going to keep making money off of him.
Which makes you go back to that time he gets shot the 4 times, right?
Right.
So I understand beef for the sense of let's make it popular. Let's both dislike each other in public so that we can boost our own popularity, which is exactly what happened. They started this whole beef. Yeah. Both of them went through the roof. You were it's like an Apple Android type situation. You either liked Pac or you liked Biggie. It wasn't that people didn't like both, but usually you picked your favorite kind of thing.
You were either East Coast or West Coast.
And so that's kind of the way it was. And I'm wondering, at one point, when does the instigation come from higher up to say, hey, there's money to be made here. Let's instigate this a little bit further.
Maybe Pac shot himself in that first run. Because
you think he would be the instigator in this situation?
Non-mortal.
They were going to meet. Wasn't he going to meet P. Diddy and
they all orchestrated it.
Smalls?
They're like, hey,
maybe
have your guy shoot me in the leg 4 times. I don't even know where he
maybe
shot.
Maybe Pac wasn't in. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't involved. Maybe everybody else was.
But it wasn't mortally wounding enough that he couldn't climb up some stairs and get to the studio.
At some point, the instigators could be higher up, and the people involved are no longer involved, and the beef becomes real.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a lot to be made there. Maybe this has always been the plan. Maybe it was to eventually kill off Tupac and Smalls. Both of them died.
Yeah.
Right? Within months of each other, if I understand correctly, right?
Right. Well, and come to find out, Biggie was actually from more of a innocent bystander, I guess.
His car got shot up, didn't it?
Well, but so Puffy was in the car, and there's there's a retired FBI agent that's saying that there's evidence that suggests that Suge actually hired a hitman to kill Puffy, and Biggie just happened to be there. So I remember when Biggie got shot, and everybody was just like, "Man, Biggie set up Pac, Pac's crew set up Biggie," and it just sparked that flame high. And but like again, just not too long ago, this FBI agent comes out and says, hey, it's most likely that Suge was just really going after Puffy. Because again, Bad Boy Records, prominent rap label against Death Row, and Suge wanted to capitalize the whole scene. So you take out Puffy, possibly take out Bad Boy, and, Death Row prevails, the top of the food chain. So who knows what a man like Suge Knight thinks, but I think, again, LA detectives like Russell Poole investigated Suge Knight and Death Row, and he's like standing on the fact that there was some foul play there, that Suge saw an opportunity, not only a potential loss of opportunity, because if Pac had fully broken off into a new label, even if Pac had died after that, he would have no royalties to anything, right? So he's like, that's his cash cow. I mean, he'd had 4 platinum albums underneath Death Row. And so he's like, he takes them out. And then 7 platinum albums come out later. One of them being under the pseudonym Machiavelli, which is kind of what leads into the other prime conspiracy theory behind Pac's death, that Pac did fake his death. And so Suge Knight went on record saying that they were in Hawaii, I guess. And Suge says that Pac told him that about it, like a dream, and about this vision he has, and that, he looked at Niccolo Machiavelli, which was this public figure, and there was a war going on, and in this Machiavelli, like, he was charismatic, right? People listened to him when he talked and stuff. So Machiavelli fakes his own death to basically manipulate the enemy, making the enemy think that, this prominent figure is dead, he can't spark up the people anymore. And then, that's kind of what Machiavelli did, right? So Pac talks about his respect for Machiavelli, and in fact, was quoted as saying, sometimes it has been of great moment where the fight is going on to disseminate words that pronounce the enemy's captain to be dead or to have been conquered by another part of the army. Many times this has given victory to whom used it, right? So he makes this quote, again, based on why he like really respects the story of Machiavelli. But Suge Knight says, hey, Pac told me he was going to fake his own death. And then the weird, creepy thing is that there's this video that Pac did for I Ain't Mad at You. And in the video, he's like all dressed in all white, right? And then he dies at the end of the video and ascends to heaven. That video was released 2 weeks before his death. And just a month after he supposedly told Suge he was going to kill himself. Or not kill himself, fake his own death. So, who knows? I know a lot of people out there like, yeah, I know. And then we saw him at Coachella. So do you know that the only people that saw Pac dead in the hospital were a couple of hospital staff and his mother?
Police officer was actually holding him. And that guy, I was reading an article that he gets harassed still to this day for whether or not he really saw him die or not. Apparently there was a police officer that was holding him as he died.
Oh, at the scene?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that. I just saw in the hospital where they pronounced him dead. Only his mother and a couple of hospital staff. His mother could easily be on it. Moms will do anything for their sons. And hey, a nurse back then probably only making $40,000 a year. Here's $500,000.
Well, when did Easy
handle it?
When did Easy die? We know a year.
Ooh, I do not know.
Okay, so I was looking up their net worth all of this time. So Easy was like $160 million
at death or after?
At death. Because they haven't done a lot after. I mean, the Records has, but as far as the NWA and all that,
that movie sparked it back up for sure. I'm
sure. Yeah. And then Biggie's net worth, his estate net worth right now is like $160 million.
Wow.
Pac, I think, is double or triple that.
Yeah.
But I think Suge Knight before was $107 million, and then afterwards he had a lot of other stuff go down, right? Like they bankrupt Death Row, sold it off for 50% or something like that. So he had a bunch of money problems kind of going after it. But at the time of death, I think it was $107 million.
At the time of Pac's death.
Yep.
And then it went up.
And
I
believe
bit, right?
He owed $103 million to either artists or other people, investors.
Because I know that right after Pac death, and they like started cranking out these albums, which is why everybody's like, Pac's not dead. They got the Machiavelli album came out just right after, and Death Row was making some money. But I know that Pac's mom, again, the only one that's supposedly one of those, she slides in and is like, hey, I'm taking this.
And she did. She did take the rights.
Yeah,
I saw that until she passed.
Yeah.
And then now it's, I think, the sister.
Right, yeah. His family estate belongs to the family. But again, in Suge's mind, he's like, I own the rights. He never broke for me, so I'm going to make this money, right? So that's why it leads back to Suge. And nobody will ever know unless Suge's on his deathbed and goes, all right.
You got me.
You got me.
The jig is up.
Do you know how Suge Knight got Tupac to sign with him?
No.
So it didn't start on good standing. I mean, technically it did, but
I just thought it was something like Pac was in prison, though.
Pac was in prison for sexual assault. And he had a $3 million bail. Oh. And Suge Knight says, I pay this, you come sign with me.
Oh.
And that's how that went down. So
extortion.
He had his oath. Right? You know, he was stuck there until he felt like he repaid that back, and then he did, and probably wanted to do his own thing, and you know, it is extortion, it's blackmail. Essentially, right? You're like, no. Yeah,
you remember that time?
I bought you. Do you remember?
Yeah.
You remember that time I bought you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Pac gets out of prison, and him and Dre do the California song, and it hits the charts. Suge's like, yeah, best investment ever. Oh, now you want to leave me? You're going to die.
Yeah, if all this stuff is true, all the conspiracy's true, all those things you just mentioned about him pulling him out of prison, then Death Row Records is the most ironic name you can have for a record company in the world. Ever. There's no comparison.
Right. Killed Easy, took out Pac. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing where he took him out of prison because he was
that is true.
Yeah, I know.
That's a true story.
And did the name of the record label exist before
this
that
was
instance?
95, and I believe it did.
Okay.
Because NWA was 89 when they were doing their thing.
And it would also be ironic.
Maybe 90.
It would just be, well, not ironic, but I mean, he literally would be a serial point. I mean,
Death Row Records is 91. Well, he himself did not kill them.
He's still a serial killer.
Yes, he had people assassinate
except
people.
for the dude he ran over with his car.
Well, that or maybe the one where he supposedly gave AIDS to somebody by injection. I mean, that's pretty gnarly.
Speculation.
Yeah.
You can't. How are you going to trace AIDS back? Especially with a guy that was known as a pea getter. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Hey, nobody's saying Suge's a good guy. This guy's bad. He's bad news across the board.
Well, there's bad, and then there's
evil,
serial killer.
Yeah.
There's serial killer, sociopath who creates ironic record label to kill black rappers. It's crazy.
What am I going to name my album or my record label? Death Row. Yeah. So you guys sign with me, and if you leave me, you're going to die. But, and that's what that LAPD detective said. He was like, there's been signs at this record that's how he operates. We just don't have the solid evidence, which brings me back to the evidence piece. You know, it's funny. Somebody made in an article, they make this one final comment in the end of the article. You find it funny that the greatest investigative team in the world, the FBI, and there's not a single person in prison or even a current standing, in custody or anything for either of these murders. And then somebody commented on the article, and they were like, "Yeah, that's because the FBI, the LAPD, and none of these."
There's a guy that was arrested. That's not true. Sorry, he was under investigation.
There were suspects. Yeah,
they believed he took credit for it, and then ended up dying 3 months later in another unrelated gang.
He took credit for Pac's death.
Yeah. Orlando Anderson.
The one LAPD cop said, crazy thing. So when the shooter pulls up, you see a lot of drive-by. So this guy's investigated all kinds of drive-by shootings, and they pull up right next to the car and they shoot. This guy pulled up at a back angle and shot at an angle so that not a single bullet even came near Suge. Yeah, and they said that was one weird thing that was it's always haunted them because all drive-by shootings, they pull up side right next to him and just shoot at a.
There was one thing I read on here that not only that, but the shooter appeared to have leaned out of the vehicle to shoot at a specific angle.
Yeah.
And it just felt that was part of the problem. The guy was listed as a suspect, was not arrested, but ended up dying in later 98.
So the FBI is just man, we don't care. Either that or maybe Pac is alive. I don't know. It just all seems kind of wonky. But did you know that Pac's aunt? Back to the Cuba thing. Did you know that Pac's aunt was like a prominent figure in the Black Panther Party, and she escaped a New York prison?
Did she go to Wakanda?
She went. She went to Cuba. She
Black Panther.
Black Panther. Yeah, no, I got it. Yeah, Wakanda forever.
He's like, yeah, I know. I got it. Yeah, we all got it. Yeah.
Like Cody, I'm trying to stay away from it.
Yeah.
I figure if I fuel your fire over here, it's just going to keep coming.
We get it.
You listen, just a little bit of attention, and they just keep coming. They just keep coming.
We're going to just ignore it from now on. Be like, Cody, did you say something? Like, so that's, I think, where the Cuba thing comes in, because they think he's in Cuba with his aunt, living it up. Because she escaped a New York prison and she was in prison on murder charges, and
she got out and ran.
She got out and ran all the way to Cuba from New York.
Pretty impressive.
That is impressive. She made it. Pac probably helped her. Supposedly so. Again, he's probably chilling in Cuba. Another great one I saw, that the U.S. government has him on witness protection program. And the best part about that is the Twitter feeds that pop out from the CIA. They randomly pop up, and it just says, "We do not have Tupac." Like
the fact that they filmed it, they must. I was like,
to reply on Twitter, like, good Lord,
you're
people,
kidding me.
We do for the CIA.
Yeah, such an unprofessional tweet.
It is, and that's all it says.
Yeah,
there were some other ones that were worded a little different, but that's pretty much, it's like a one sentence thing. We do not have Tupac. We do not know where Tupac is, and it was just like, it's comical.
So, off topic, but I was just randomly looking through things. You know, so we got Death Row Records, right? So Death Row Records eventually goes into bankruptcy, and then is sold off to auction, and then eventually Snoop Dogg buys it back. Yeah. Right. I was looking through here just to kind of see, you know, where, again, Suge Knight owned the company. He wasn't the only owner, but he was the primary, right?
Yeah,
the president.
He had investors,
and Dr. Dre was one of them.
Right.
But under the album, Snoop Dogg released 3 albums. Okay?
Yeah.
That's where he got his start, 3 albums, from 92 to 98.
Yeah, that album, Doggy Style. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, just the front of the cover was explicit.
You have 1,
Nice.
2,
Was it
3, 4, 5, 6.
It was bad.
Oh, it's people.
No, they were like dog people, but they were like doing things that, anyways.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
we don't need to get
moving
into
on.
it. Yeah.
Like they love dogs, like they were dog people, or that they were dog people.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They were people in dog
You guys are
costumes.
terrible.
It was cartoonesque.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Stop.
Yeah.
So
You probably don't want to do that.
there were 6 other artists that only released 1 album, and Dr. Dre's one of them, right? Only 1 album. Tupac released 2 and has since released 7 more. So that means 9 albums released for Tupac.
I saw Pac release 4.
According to this, there were 2 that were released before his death.
Oh, okay.
Now, I haven't gone back and looked at that. It's literally labeled out.
So they released his 2, and then they released 7 more.
7 more. No other albums had been released after that, besides Tupac from Death Row Records.
Wow. He was the cash cow.
He was the cash cow.
Well, Dre knew after his Chronic album, and it went platinum, he knew that he had something, and he knew that he was like the main producer. Like Dre makes some pretty clean beats, made majority of them for Eminem, and
Dre was the first album on there.
Yeah. So Dre went in and was like, I'm taking my stuff and you ain't stopping me. I'm out. And in fact, only one known today that broke from Suge without any, like, you don't hear any like weird, like Dre had like Hitman or anything like that against him. So, I don't know. Whatever he said to Suge, he got out. I know the movie depicts one thing, but only Dre knows what happened that day. And
have you guys watched the documentary on Netflix?
No.
We were talking about doing this show, and I happened to see it pop up. I haven't watched it. I'd be interested to go back and watch it and see. But have you seen anything on that? Nothing?
No, I was watching dog cover.
Did you see the cover?
Yeah, I saw it. It is dog people.
It is. That's what I said.
Yeah,
it's dog people.
I didn't like the poker table dog people like that.
No, those are actual dogs. I'm talking. Okay. These are like
people.
These are animal-human hybrids. These are.
Yeah.
This is
Sweet Tooth.
They're kind of like. Yes. I mean, it's kind of like people in dog costumes because this lady has, I mean, obviously human feet, but then and Snoop Dogg, who I'm assuming is Snoop Dogg, the dog right there.
Yeah.
He has human hands.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know.
And you know, some promiscuous stuff looking like it's about to transpire.
Well, I mean, yeah, he looks like he's reaching for the tail. And then what's really great is at the top.
What's the name of the album?
It's called Doggy Style. And so what's funny is at the top of this, there are 3 dogs, or weird looking dogs. And one of them says, "Why must I feel like that?" ? And then the other one says, "Why must I chase the cat?" ? And the third one says, "Nothing but the dog me. Dog in me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think those are lyrics from one of the songs.
I mean, they might be. They just out of context to someone who doesn't understand that. Yeah, it looked really funny to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should hang that on your wall.
What, Doggy Style?
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, get a print.
Stop.
Get it.
I should just buy the vinyl and just get that in a shadow box.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Conversation pieces when the in-laws come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know how that works.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give it a shot. I mean, yeah.
So, there's a lot. There's definitely some heavy evidence one way, and then there's all these different little crazy conspiracies. But Biggie, not really any conspiracy. He just, you know, he was a big piece of the East Coast West Coast thing, and Biggie was shot. Sounds like he was probably just an innocent bystander. He was never even the target. But Pac, nobody knows. Some people think he's still alive, doing shows at Coachella from Cuba. And, you know,
I think we would have heard something from someone involved if that had happened. I agree with Cody. Like, all these people haven't said anything. Like, I think he was referring to the AIDS thing, but I agree with them. If you go this long of time without somebody coming out and saying, I helped him, or I did this, or not the occasional photo of him in a club from 10 yards away with an old flip phone camera.
Yeah. And if he's paying people to keep their mouth shut, there'd be records.
There'd be something. Right.
Yeah, unless he's paying the government to help keep it quiet. Who knows? I mean, people do funny things for money. But I guess the question at the end of this, the main question as we wrap up is, well, where do we think? What is our thoughts on who killed Pac? Why?
I think Suge Knight had the most to gain.
Yeah.
From it. I mean, we look at it was right. All Eyes on Me was the first album. Machiavelli was the second.
Yeah.
After that, there were 7 other albums released. Some of those are greatest hits, or some things that were recorded that were never put into a CD, but he had the most to gain from it.
Right. For sure. At least, I mean, his you know, I don't think he perceives that the family would come after him the way they did. Maybe. I don't know. You'd have to think
and
that.
You think the relationship between them two, you don't, like, it's not like, oh, hey, this guy's a really good rapper, I'm going to go ahead and sign him. To go to prison and tell this dude, I will bail you out, but you have to sign over to me.
Yeah, I'm going to pay you $3 million. I'm going to pay a $3 million bail.
It's like a signing bonus, but it's not handled as if he's an artist. It's handled as if he is a leader of a gang, and
I own you.
I own you.
Yeah.
Now, regardless if that's how it was perceived or taken, that's how many other people have you heard that go down? I mean, my guess is over time, mind you, All Eyes on Me went 10 times platinum, so it's a diamond album, right?
Right.
Before this, nothing had gone over 2 to 3 even The Chronic has only been platinum 3 times.
Wow.
Which is Dr. Dre, right?
But most of those platinums were post death, right?
Chronic? No. Are you talking about Pac?
Yeah.
No, Pac's now, I'm sure his platinums were after death, correct. I'm sure his death boosted, but you would understand that he knows that.
Yeah.
Like, my thought process is that most of the evidence probably points to he was involved in some way. Did Suge Knight kill himself? Probably not. But my guess is that he had some involvement in how it went down.
And the fact that there are records that show that he did fire David Kenner just weeks before death, and that the reason was he was going to start his own label.
The only thing is, it's kind of backfired on him. I mean, he made a truckload of money, but now he's broke and in prison again.
Oh, yeah.
Only worth about $200,000, according to Google.
How much is he worth?
$200,000.
Man.
Fall from grace. But and the company's gone, and Snoop Dogg owns it now.
Yeah.
So it's back in the original kind of, he was the original album, kind of him and Dre were the original guys that were there. So it's tough, man. I don't know. You have to see that far into the future, and my guess is he couldn't see that where he's going to end up today, and he ended up getting incarcerated for other crimes, not Tupac related. But I don't know. I think that there's no direct evidence saying that he did it, but I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he did or that he was involved.
I should have tried to find that interview by Jimmy Kimmel. That'd have been funny.
Are we sure? Was it recent?
It was. God.
Because I'm like, Jimmy Kimmel hasn't been on TV. I mean, he's been on TV a long time now, but back when all this was happening, it was Jay Leno and David Letterman.
No, it said.
So that makes me believe that it was a more recent interview.
Jimmy Kimmel. That Knight was on the Jimmy Kimmel show and made a comment about getting syringes with AIDS, and it would be an easy, low-down way to kill a man. So,
wow.
He took out.
It was 2015, right before he got arrested. Again.
Oh, yeah. So.
Yeah, because he came back for Death Row Records between 2001 to 2015.
Yeah.
I think is what it was. I think that was the date I was reading. But.
Yeah. Tupac. Who killed him? Why? You got any thoughts on this? I know. I'm with Andy, to be honest. I too much evidence just shows that it would, everything from the angle of the shooting to Suge would have,
the only thing that sheds money. The only thing that would shed any kind of innocence on him is the fact that he was in the car, right?
Right.
I was there.
But that's what this LAPD detective says. You're right, which would give him an alibi,
deniability. Right? Yeah.
But the angles that these guys shot at because it was at a stoplight, right?
But that's not concrete proof, right?
No,
and so being in the car is the biggest alibi that he could have.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I mean, if it's not that, then, I mean, what else could it be? Could it be gang-related shooting?
It could be.
I mean,
it could be.
I mean, they were all involved in that kind of stuff. So it was stray too far from where, they've lived.
Yeah. And even though Puffy always looks like a happy-go-lucky guy, doesn't mean that he wasn't doing dirt behind the scenes. Yeah. He was just cleaner than Suge. He didn't, you know what I mean?
I think they all have a little bit of dirt, right? Like at the end of the day, they've all got a past. Things like Mac Dre dying at a concert, right? Like you've got Eazy-E, there's a number of people that have died who have gotten more popular after the death.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Maybe Cody's right. Maybe Suge Knight had nothing to do with it at all. Maybe he's just an innocent bystander, and it's affected his life going forward because people don't, know how to trust him on it. But if that's the case, that sucks.
Yeah.
But he had the most to gain from it.
Rapping R&B back then was dirty, no matter what. It was dirty. Everything from album covers to songs that when you listen to the lyrics later in life, you're like, oh no, what are they really doing?
I wonder why that is. Like, how come that genre specifically just has the gnarliest you can think of? Because didn't rap come from R&B type stuff for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But R&B doesn't have
like a Motown.
But those roots aren't, gang related at at right? No. I mean, I don't know of anything. I don't know why that one specific. Maybe it's because of the popularity, because rap. I don't know. I'm not educated.
I don't know.
That's all post-war stuff. Like when we think about it, a lot changed in the way that we acted and treated people and women and all that stuff. Everything. It just slowly started to change after that. So when you think about Motown, it's a little bit more, in my mind, respectful, right? When you think about, who am I thinking of? The Temptations, right? Stuff like that. It's kind of like the basis for some of these things, but rhythm and blues, I don't know. I can't explain it. I just know that when you started having Eazy-E, NWA, Nate Dogg, all those guys, the content was not great.
No. No. It was either super sexual, super, murder-esque, or combination of the both. But it was never any cleanliness.
To me, it always just created division, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going around saying F the police, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know they've got their reasons for feeling that way and saying that. And again, some of it could just be, hey, this is going to make me lots of money, or it's what people want to say, but they can't say, so I'm going to say it on whatever. But to me, it just leads to some kind of division.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's to make money. That's all they were about, was making the money.
All about the money. All about the Benjamins. And they're all coming. A lot of these guys back then were all coming out of very poor, broke down areas where, their parents struggled, or, maybe they had broken homes, or whatever the case may be. So here they go. They can express their emotions heavily through rap music and get paid to do it.
The other day, Bailey had said something about, if you had lots of money, Dad, you'd be a different person. I'm like, well, not necessarily. Dad likes what I like, and there may be some things in our lives that improve, but I would still want to be the same person I am today. It's true.
I think Ira Springs would sell platinum records.
Oh, yeah. I'd be an early investor.
Yeah.
Y'all are terrible. The point I'm trying to make is that
your album you call the Pot of Gold. I just want to know the Pot of Gold or
Pot of Greed.
No, yeah. Lucky Charms.
Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We got to find this stuff.
Never going to. The point I'm trying to make is that I don't believe that to be true all the way through. I think there are times that money can change people and make them act a certain way or show a different way, but I do think that it's possible to come from nothing and live in what they were both in gangs and very gang related, to go from that, get a lot of money infused, but still have those, the way of acting.
It doesn't change it doesn't change the foundational piece of who you are. You have to change that regardless of money or not.
Correct.
So,
and that goes in both ways. So it's possible that this was completely gang related for both of them.
Yeah.
And that we're just grasping at straws because it's unexplainable.
Yeah. Well, unless Suge Knight wakes up one day in his jail cell and says it was me, I don't think either of these deaths, specifically Tupac, is ever going to be uncovered. Just another one of those dead mysteries that will remain with a ton of conspiracies behind it. So who knows? Hey, if you guys have an idea, let us know. Maybe you've got a different conspiracy we didn't touch on. Drop us a message. We'd love to hear about it. Either way, as always, we love you, and we're out.
Peace out.
Yeah.